You just one click, just one little extra click, so we're good. So let me find my screen again, just a sec.
Yep.
There and there. Let's try this and see if it works.
Boom. All right.
Are we good?
Hey, you're good. Take it away, sister.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, I am so excited because we're going to talk about authentic conversations. And the way I'm going to talk you through these is through like pulling back the curtain. And I'm actually going to talk through 6 different ways that I create and cultivate these conversations in my everyday kind of my role in my job and the way I show up with my teams and stuff. So I'm super excited about kind of showing you those examples. So with that, I'm going to start. Let me get my click here. Okay. So before I dig into these examples, I want to kind of kick it off with the conversation around authentic conversations. So when we think about authentic conversations, it's like showing up with our true self and maybe getting, being willing to get a little bit vulnerable and things like that. But I think we know we can't just show up and go, okay, everybody, take your armor off, take all the hurt and all the things that have happened to you in your past, throw them away, because today we're going to have authentic conversations. It's going to be amazing. So I don't know if that works for you, but it has never worked for me. So you can't just start with that. But when we start thinking about authentic conversations, for me, it comes back to 2 things. It's how do we create a community that we have, it's a safe place. It's a safe place for people to share. It's really a safe place for them to confide in people, maybe some real problems they're having, and almost a place for them to feel cared for and feel like other people can relate to them. But also, to me, it's about connection. It's about, are we making it about us or are we making it about them? Is it personal? Is it something they can like attach to go, I understand that. I feel that. I can relate to that. But also, do we help people see how the things we're talking about in the room can then be taken out of the room with them, and then they can go and do it in their space? And I think we forget when we go into meetings and we're the facilitator and we're kind of in charge of like, moving all the things around, that if we make it about us, we make it about dictating and telling people what they need to do, then they're going to leave and they're going to probably go out and do what we ask them to do, but they're not owning it. And they're not finding that one thing that helps them go, you know what? This person cares about me. This person listens to me. This person really wants me to go out and think about, how does this impact me? We don't set the environment for those things. And so the reason I put the chicken and the egg and all those things on the screen is, for me, when I think about authentic conversations, we've got to create an environment that helps create connection and create community. But we need a connection in a community that then feeds into people willing to share. So I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I just know all those things have to feed into each other. And when you're thinking about that and you're walking into a room, I want you to really consider, am I creating an opportunity for people to connect? Am I creating a community of people that feel safe and that can trust the people that are around them to kind of share some things that maybe, don't feel so good? So that's kind of how I want to kick this off. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I am going to talk through 6 different ways that I go into my classes that I facilitate, my training classes, my alignments, my kickoff meetings, my onboardings, all of those things. I'm going to not just tell you, here's what you need to do. I'm actually going to pull up examples on the screen. And when you leave today, my hope is that I'm going to show you 6. If you take them all, you're a high achiever, you're a high performer, take them and go make them better. But if you can just pull 1 or 2 of them out and go, you know what? I think I can go do that with my team. I think I can go in to my department or my group and I can really, hey, this is an example. Let's try to do this so that we can foster more authentic conversations. So the first one I'm going to talk about today, and most of my things are all visual and up on the wall. So just let you know that. So the first thing is, this is an agenda for a meeting, for a conference that I got to attend earlier this week. And that was with So Built. conference with Christina Hinkai, and she did this amazing conference with a small group of people that, I mean, industry change makers. And the way that we worked through the agenda for an entire full day conference was visual up on the board. Some of you call them Kanban or, Scrum, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. This is how the agenda was set up in the big room, in the room that we were meeting. And so a couple of things I want you to take away from this. Number one, it's visual. So we all sometimes get the agenda sit in front of us on the table with the times, and this is how much it's going to be and who's speaking. Sometimes we get it like Thomas had one kind of, here's my goal of what I'm going to hit today. And then sometimes we have no idea. I'm one of those people that usually do not give the agenda because I'm usually going to go off track. And you can't go, oh, wait a minute, you didn't hit that one. So I usually don't give all the details. But what I love about this is, number one, it's visual. Number two, everyone in the room, it's very clear what the plan is for today. We're going to try to hit all these things. I'm going to tell you, we didn't. And that's okay. Because it shows that, hey, I'm willing to put it out there. And you know what? There's a couple of those things that never moved from to do. This was the whole agenda. And it never moved over because one of the conversations we got really deep and it went longer. And so they kind of had to navigate how are we going to do this? And at the end of the day, the vulnerability of going, hey, we didn't tackle everything we planned to do. Okay. How did it impact it? Things like that. You're able to then bring them into the conversation around an agenda. And I just think that's magical when you can put it up on the board and be visual and let people see, hey, you're moving them across. So I have it here. We're as Felipe says, there's only one thing in the doing column. That's all you can do. So you move it over and, hey, we did lunch, we did breakfast. We made sure everyone knew, hey, here's where we are, but here's also the things we've accomplished so far. And so throwing it out there, visual, you can write it, you can do stickies, but I love the way that we were able to at any point look over and go, oh, that's how much we have done. That's how much we still have to do. So I would recommend this is a great way to go into if it's a packed agenda and people are just like, oh my gosh, it kind of allows them to even, hey, can you go over and move that over, and you get them engaged in it, and it helps them learn not only here's an agenda, but it's also a tool. It's a process that they can now take and use for other things. And you're going to see that in some of my other examples is every time I do an exercise or I try to engage the room to help them kind of share more, it's always like, how do I create a connection so that they can walk away and go, ooh, now I can go and implement this on my project, and not just, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do this, go do this. It's, ooh, now I can go and do this with my trades when we start a new scope of work. I start giving them examples of things they can do on their job sites, not just because they're in my room. So that's one example. Next example, this one's kind of fun. So the next two are about icebreakers, and everyone talks about icebreakers and how important they are. And everyone who knows me knows that's one of the most magical parts, how we start out and create the environment for what's going to happen, what's next. And if you don't lean into this very much, you may be having to work through that throughout the meeting or throughout the day or throughout the training class. And so this is an example. I'm going to give you two of some icebreakers that you can help facilitate, and then what the magic is that comes from it and how you can kind of make that connection. So one of the things I do is when we go around the room and we share things about the people in the room, what's your name, where are you from, what's your role, and what food can you not, Jared already knows, what food can you not stand? And it's not the normal, what's your favorite food, what's your favorite, whatever. It's what food you want nothing to do with. So that in itself starts fostering conversations on, somebody will say, oh my gosh, I can't stand this. Oh my gosh, I can't either. Oh, that's my favorite. And so they're already starting to make connections, and I've not said or done anything, but somebody will say, oh my gosh, I remember this one time or this, and they start relating to each other and connecting to each other just because of what they say. And to me, it's magic, because you got different people, and I'm just like him. I'm like him too, but I like this, and they start making these connections and creating this little community. And all I've done is ask them a question. It's like magic. So my story with this is I go around and I let everybody share. And then it comes to me. And so they're like, okay, what is your least favorite food? And I say, my least favorite food is raspberries. And I say, and I have 3 brothers. And if you had to guess, what do you think their least favorite food is? And, sometimes they're like, well, what do you, and then somebody will go raspberries. I'm like, absolutely. So all 4 of us, our least favorite food is raspberries. And they're just looking at me. And I was like, let me tell you why. And I say, my dad was in the Navy. When he was in the Navy, he was stationed up in at the Naval Station in Philadelphia. My mom worked for the Red Cross. And if the kind of the Red Cross helps bring food for the troops and things like that. So for whatever reason, when my dad was in the Navy, he got some bad raspberries, like, ones that were sour and whatever. And at that moment, he decided that raspberries were nasty, that no one should have to consume them, and that they just tasted horrible. And so this was before any of us existed. So he met my mom, married my mom, had 4 kids, and our entire lifetime that he was alive, we didn't buy raspberries. We didn't buy things that tasted like raspberry. We were told they were gross. We don't do anything with raspberries. And to this day, if you say raspberries, I kind of, raspberries, but I can eat them and there's nothing wrong with them. We were conditioned to not like raspberries. So how many times when we're on the job site and we're in a room with people, because of how we say things, because of how we react, because of the words we use, because of the environment we set, we are conditioning people to do and say things purely because of how we do it. And then I just stop. And they're just like, all the time. I'm like, exactly. You think my dad intentionally made us want to hate raspberries? No. He loved us. We were his kids, but he did it subconsciously because he didn't like raspberries. And so I always challenge him, think about the things you're saying and doing, and the trades, they're watching you, and the people are engaging you. Your younger generations, they're doing, and you're shaping them, and you're conditioning them for how to treat people, how to take time off, how to work your butt off, or how to make sure that you balance. You're conditioning them for what they're going to be okay with. And so that's the icebreaker. And so it's one of those things that, depending on how you engage with some of these conversations, you are already setting up a condition for people who are going to be willing to share and willing to talk about things. And this is only one. So I know I got to get through this as I'm going to get run off the stage. So one example is, a food you can't stand, and then have a story to tie with it. Next example, and this one Jesse gets full credit for, is another icebreaker that I have used is with our emotional bungee jumpers group. We have challenges, and one of the challenges was Jesse had asked us to, ask at least 3 people, how do they like to receive information? How to communicate? How do they like people to communicate with them? And I thought that was one. That's a cool question, because sometimes we make a lot of assumptions. And so what I did is, because I have a lot of classes that I get to talk to a lot of people, I use it as an icebreaker. And I said, hey, get your sticky, put your name on it. And I said, think about how you like to receive information, how you like people to communicate with you. And what is that? Is it text? Is it face-to-face? Is it things like, there's the question. Thank you, Jesse. But it's, how do you like that what does that communication look like? And I had them write it down. And then we looked at the responses, and we started talking through that. We started asking, okay, why? And someone else said, well, I hadn't even thought about, I know how I like it, but I'd never thought about asking someone else how they like it. Because a lot of times we'll work our butts off to create A3s, dashboards. We're trying to create reports. We're trying to write emails and memos, because in our mind, that's how we need to communicate that information. But very rarely do we stop and ask the person that's actually receiving it, how would you like it? Because sometimes it can keep you from working and doing more and creating waste, because it's stuff that probably may not even be used. So another icebreaker, great conversation for people to start making connections and talking, is, what is your preferred method of communication? So 2 icebreakers, you can use either one. Next example. So the next 4 are going to be things that I do within the class to kind of foster conversations. Next one is, I learned this one from Vic Ortiz in his kind of high performing leadership facilitation class that he has led and is handing off to Felipe and I. We're going to do some stuff with that later, but it's an exercise that was magical. And I never thought about it before. So collaboration is one of our 4 tenets at Robbins and Morton. So I talk about collaboration all the time. And I have always asked, what is collaboration to you? And then we get people to fill out sticky notes, and then we kind of talk through that. Well, he had an exercise, and we did it in class, and then I did it in 2 different classes after that, at classes that I lead. And it's collaboration. What is collaboration? What is not collaboration? And by just adding that other element, you can see some examples up here. It's easy to go, it's about teamwork, it's about a common goal. But then you start asking people to identify what is not. And then you start seeing very detailed examples of it's finger pointing. It's things that, it's not valuing opinions. And then all of a sudden you're getting another kind of a layer of where people probably have been hurt or been, some things that have happened to them that they're kind of holding on to, or some things that maybe that keep them from jumping in and having real conversations. And so I loved it. So that's the exercise. But then there's another layer, if you can get to it, and you say, okay, so give me examples of what is collaboration. What's something at your job site that you've seen, that you've witnessed at this company? Or all the new hires come through my class. Or even something at a previous company where you have really felt this is exactly what collaboration should be, or this is not collaboration. Give us some examples. And then they start sharing in a room, and then other people start relating to them and adding to the conversations. It's amazing. So it's one exercise, and it can be, collaboration was the word I used. It can be whatever you want the topic to be, but you want them to look at both sides of it. Because sometimes it's real easy to focus on sometimes one side, but not looking at the other side. And so again, great exercise to use. And so just, if you have any questions about it, let me know. But it's one that I've only used in the last couple classes, and it was powerful. So there's that one. Next, this one's one of my favorites. This one is inside, outside the gate. And so those of you that have followed Jesse and I, we talk about inside and outside the gate all the time. I call it the inside, outside exercise. I do it in every new hire class. I do it in any of my alignment classes, anything that I can do that talks about learning, creating a learning culture, talking about learning. I use this exercise. And so I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to tell you it's so freaking cool. So a lot of times we go into meetings, and we already kind of have the agenda set. People that are having to attend to the meeting had nothing to do with the agenda. They just got told they have to show up and they have to be somewhere. And so what this exercise does, it not only pulls information out of your attendees, but then you can tell them how they can use this exercise when they go back to their job sites to be able to have valuable meetings and lunch and learns that is dictated by the people that are in the room. So the way the exercise works, and this one is inside outside, I ask the question, 2 sticky notes. On one sticky note, what is something you want to learn more about inside of our company? So your role, anything, and you can see the examples up here. What is something you want to learn more about inside of work? And then outside, what is something you want to learn more about outside of work? And all of a sudden, you've started to break down these barriers of show up to work, put my work hat on, focus on work. Okay, now I can go home and talk about home. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not saying 100% because I don't think anything's 100%, but 99% of the time we go through, they write them up on the board. Okay. And then we get to vote. So they all get 3 votes. They get stickers and things like that. So I give them 3 votes, and they get to put stickers on things they want to talk about. So we're going to have an exercise after we get back from lunch or whatever it is. And we're going to talk through a couple of these topics. So if you have 3 votes to go in and put your stickers what you want to talk about in the room. And you can see here, these are actual examples where they went in and they stuck stickers on it. And what's been magical about this is these are real life examples of the ones that got the most votes. They're not technical skills. They're not processes. They're not things like that. And so I'm going to say, when you're going out and you're asking people things, don't just all of a sudden assume that they really, really want to talk about the tools and processes and they don't want to talk about the soft skills, because most of the time, the ones that get the most votes are the ones that have to do with the soft skills. So these are actually, how do we relax better outside of work? How can I relax? And then inside of the company, I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about how I can grow. And these have been things that, again, the feedback has been amazing. So I'm almost done. I only have one more left. So Felipe, just hold on just a second. The last one, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I will share any and all resources I have. So this one is called the 6 hats. And this one actually is really cool. It is, I read an article and it's about all in the room. You have people, there's usually 6 hats. People have one of these hats on in the room. And you can go through the conductor's hat. It's the optimist hat. It's the factual hat. It's the hat for the heart, the judge's hat where there's risk, and then the creative hat. And I go in and I give people stickers. They don't know what the stickers are for. And then I pose a problem to the room. And the only way they can respond to the problem is with the hat that they're wearing. And what we've realized is we don't realize how hard it is when other people are having to look at things from our perspective. But when we can only respond in a hat that's not ours, it is super hard. And so when we go in and we think about, sometimes you can start identifying these people in the room, but I'm telling you, it changes the way people look at how we're tackling problems, because they realize there's a lot of different perspectives to the problem. And so it's a really cool exercise. Happy to share any more information than that. And as my wrap up slide is, Jesse, 1, thank you for allowing me to be here today. And 2, for those of you that are just jumping on or just figuring out that there's this live stream and this cool conference, like, there are magical people that are speaking, that spoke yesterday, that are speaking today, that have put out some really good content. And I'm just gonna do a promotion for all of them, is that go get their books, read them, because they're talking about some of their things on their little 25 minutes of fame. But most of them, they have so much more that they're not even touching on, and some of their books do. So I'm just recommending to go out and get their books. Okay, I think I'm done.
Gangsta. Well, what you didn't say, Jennifer, is that you're the illustrator on 2 of those books.
I am the illustrator on 2 of them.
Okay, so we got a bunch of questions. I'm going to start. So you're going to have homework just like Thomas did.
Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
I'm going to start with Darren. Mr. Darren Waldron says, are these exercises conducted once during a project or multiple times?
So I will answer based on, they can be done multiple times. Most of the ones that I do are because I'm usually brought in, all of our new hires come through a class with me and I do all they're not only a new hire once, but I do usually the project kickoff. We'll do the exercise. And then if I come back out for an onboarding or I come back out for another alignment meeting for something else, we'll go through the exercises again. So for me and my role, I usually will do them one time, but because of the way they're structured, the team can then take them and do them with other scopes of work and things like that. So.
Awesome. Okay, we got 2 more questions.
Okay.
And I'm sure Felipe has got one formulating. Actually, I see it down there.
Sorry.
Adam says, Jen, second on the emotional bungee jumper scoreboard. Anyone know who's on top?
Well, we only know because Adam will only talk about it if he's on top. So he will have nothing to do with the scoreboard if he's not the one on top. So I'm just going to guess Adam.
I love it. And then Sarah, who's coming in through LinkedIn that I don't have in the feed, asks, what is collaboration? What is not collaboration? And examples, what is or isn't?
So there's examples in the slide that, you can go back and look. Most of the responses for me are, when you have a shared goal and you are working together towards that shared goal. That's kind of how I define collaboration, where we all are looking at something together and not just like all trying to pull out a lot of different perspectives, but we're trying to see, okay, how do these perspectives get us to that condition of satisfaction or whatever that goal is. And then what is not is all the things that we know that detract and that cause things in our industry to not work. And so there's a ton of them. And that is, for me, that exercise helps surface things. Some of them are repeated, and then some of them are very unique because of past experiences.
Boom. Felipe, what do you got for our sister before we do this handoff, brother?
I was getting that question in because I wanted to make sure that I hear from Jennifer what outside the gate influence has impacted your inside the gate actions the most.
Oh, outside the gate. Well, I 100% my kids.
There we go.
So 100% my kids. So I have right now I have a 12 and a 14-year-old daughter that have obviously been on this journey with me, and they are very quick to call me out when they've seen me very visible saying something on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on something I've written or I've said, and then I'll do something and they're like, Mom, that does not very much match up with this. And it's like right in my face. Like, what? I mean, I have to like own that. Like sometimes I have to put different hats on, and the way that I show up for them is sometimes different than the way I show up to work. And it's very apparent to them. So it's helping me be a better person and be more balanced. And I don't have to turn things off and on.
Nice. Good. Very good.
Monster question, Felipe. All right, Jen, I appreciate you very much for the energy and the insight that you brought. There's a lot of valuable stuff that we're going to be rewatching. And also, you got questions out there, girl. You got to answer them.
Okay, I'll go back and look at them for sure.
Awesome. We'll see you later.
Yeah, bye. Good luck, Felipe.
Thank you.
And now we have Felipe Engineer Manriquez bringing Ninja Scrum to us. What do you think so far, Felipe?
So far, it's been a lot of information. Like I'm burning up notes over here. So if the people watching, you better be ready with your questions. Let the questions keep flying. This is the time to engage with people and get exactly what you need.
Boom, 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 boom. So we are streaming on your stuff, on Thomas's stuff, Jennifer's stuff right now. So folks, I'm working to like pull in comments. Like if it's on your stream, I'm going to have to go watch it on YouTube and I'll filter them in somehow. You good with people asking questions as you're talking?
Yeah, please. As people ask, throw the questions up on the screen as we go so that we can see where people are. That's the best way, right, Jesse?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Just interrupt.
Let's just let it go, let it flow, and we're going to have some fun.
And that would make Jesse work. Make him work harder so he can't do anything else other than watch your questions, which is I'm going to be enjoying knowing that you're right back there trying to watch all of the stuff coming in.
Bro, I just realized I didn't eat breakfast or lunch. And I'm like, damn it, I got 2 more hours till I could eat. But this is amazing. So I am going to exit stage left. And I will be you have a presentation to share.
Yes. Yeah, if you can you have to put the presentation up for me.
Yep.
And then I think I can take control. There we go. Beautiful. Yep.
All right, y'all. Take it away, Ninja Master.
Thank you, Jesse. Welcome to the De-centralized Conference. My name is Felipe Engineer Manriquez, and you're watching this on pretty much any channel. This could be anybody's channel, but on my channel at Felipe Engineer on YouTube, I am happy to share Construction Scrum Ninja, a path to easier, better, and faster project delivery. In this live stream, if you have a question, either now or if you're watching this in the replay, post your question to the chat and I will answer your question. Yes, me. I will answer your question, not chat or so some people say cheat GDP. I will answer all of your Scrum questions. How did I learn how to use this? With these very hands. I learned lean construction and Scrum and agile principles, techniques, and traditional project management so many years ago. I've been in the construction industry for over 2 decades. I know it doesn't show by how luscious this hair still looks, but it used to come down to like here. So I've aged, I've gained some experience, and you can see from the gray hair, but I'm excited to share different ways that you can implement some of these strategies. And my favorite, most impactful thing is Scrum. It has taken me around the world. I've engaged with people in Brazil, South America, other places. I know Brazil's in South America, but I'm just coming around the map. Mexico, of course, the United States, Canada, in Europe in multiple different countries, Asia, as well as Australia with Scrum. So I think it's been everywhere. Out in the continent of Africa, of course, let's not forget. So everywhere so far except Antarctica. So researchers, if you come across this on your channel, Ninja Scrum might be what you want to play with in the Antarctic. It's up to you. So let's dive right in. Now, as we go, get your questions up so that we keep Jesse from eating. That's pretty good. That's going to be pretty cool. So if you got questions about what we're sharing, just put it on the screen. One of the first things that we've got to understand in Ninja Scrum is in the art of the ninja. True mastery lies in the seamless fusion of mind, body, and spirit. Like we heard from Jennifer and Thomas earlier today, there is a false idea of thinking that things are separated. Everything is actually pretty interconnected. It's very hard to let go of what happened to you yesterday, even the next day when you come into work from a long weekend or whatever day of the week it is. It's always you. So you're bringing it in. Just think more holistically. It's me. It's how I think. It's the state of my body. Am I well rested? What's my spirit right now? Am I high energy? Am I low energy? Am I at peace? Am I stressed? All these things will affect how you will engage with your project teams and your families. And I use Ninja Scrum at home and at work in both places and on my podcast. And even making this presentation, I used Ninja Scrum on myself so that I would have no resistance when it came to sharing the right message with each and every one of you. So you want to move with purpose, adapt, and act with unwavering focus. If you don't move with intention, then you're just being moved by others and other forces. And this reminds me of one of the quotes that's been going around on YouTube and TikTok for quite some time. And it's a movie about a boxer that gets into a car accident, and a reporter is asking him as he's making his recovering. A reporter asks him, "What's the biggest lie you've ever been told?" And he says in the movie, "It's not that easy." And the reporter is like, no, and repeats herself. And he says, "No, the biggest lie that I've been told is it's not that easy. In reality, it actually is that easy. You have to just do it. Set yourself to doing it." When I first started using Scrum and lean construction techniques, I read through books that were this thick to understand what it was. And as I was reading, I would come to find out that the concepts and the principles were basic, very basic, like even respect for people. There are many layers to that principle, but it starts off by treating yourself right. And that's why I had to use Ninja Scrum on myself all those years ago to treat myself better, because in reality, I wasn't. I was overworking. I was not being a high value contributor when I first started. I didn't have the capability or the capacity. And so when I decided to treat myself better, everything cascaded from that moment forward. And I was able to act with unwavering focus. I decided that the word no would not deter me because I'm in control, or I'm taking control. And I want each of you to think about that. The biggest lie that you're going to be told when adopting any of these tools and all the topics you're seeing in this conference, and you might lie to yourself and say, "It's too hard. I can't do it. I can't be that person." And you're lying to yourself. You can be that person. Each of us was that person. Everything that you've heard at this conference so far, we weren't born knowing how to do that. We were born like everybody else with complete amnesia, had no memory of what happened until we get here. And so you've got to be honest with yourself. Take a beginner's mind and start. It's that easy. Okay, so we'll switch over from the ninja to the samurai, because it's worth noting to do nothing that is of no use. That is a quote from Miyamoto Musashi. And Musashi famously wrote the Book of the Two Swords and the Book of the Five Rings. And I often think of Musashi in Renaissance Kyoto, Japan, in some place like this, on the side of a mountain, sitting up and writing in his Kaji characters, his memoirs, after a lifetime of being a warrior. He was a true martial artist, developing himself. And he said, do nothing that is of no use. I later heard Bruce Lee and making some similar types of quotes about how to be effective and not to waste your time. So as you look at this beautiful landscape and think, what am I doing now that's not helping me? And this is part of the Ninja Scrum. The very first part is that you need capability and capacity. If you're not doing Scrum now, if it was so easy, you'd already be doing it. There is one thing you're going to have to learn, and you're going to have to learn what you know and don't know about it. And I'd recommend not relying on your favorite search engine, because that's not going to be enough. Yeah, thank you, Ernest, the master ninja, the ninja master. So think about what it was like for Musashi. He developed the two-sword method. He had a long sword and a short sword. And he needed the long sword for big open field combat to keep enemies back, and a short sword for close quarter combat. And he used both and mastered both. And I want you to think that as you're applying any type of tool, you need to be thinking now and also in the future, forward thinking. And we'll talk about some horizons. So here's the beautiful picture in color. And wouldn't it be easier to start your Ninja Scrum with a goal in mind? If you're starting out on this path, if your goal is to reach the top of the mountain, recognize, like Musashi said, there are many paths to the top of the mountain. There is not one path. You see the one path before us, and in the distance you can see a paved road, and then there's a road down below that goes off in the distance. But you could also blaze your own path and your own trail. I'm showing you but a path, one way to go. I like to be able to see where am I going, so I'll use a compass. In my example for Ninja Scrum, when I first started, my goal was first to scrum the week. And there it is. Super simple. It's not a SMART goal, and don't get me started on SMART goals. That's a conversation for another video. But my goal was just to scrum the week and understand what Scrum is so that I can scrum the week. And this, I would say, today is Saturday. By next Friday, I should be able to see that I have in fact done this. It should be obvious to me, just like that marker at the top of the mountain, so that I will be able to look back and see what I've done. So for Ninja Scrum, the goal I'm giving you on the path that I've traveled, if you'd like to travel with me, is to scrum your week. Scrum the next 5 days. And so let's keep going. In order to understand where you're going, you've got to use all of your senses. We said mind, body, and spirit. So let's use our observations and our senses to see, to hear, to feel, touching, tasting, and feeling with the heart. Use all of those senses as you go. And that way you'll be able to move with stealth and remove impediments. And impediments are, just like we heard in Theory of Constraints with Thomas talking about the goal and Herbie, we've got to make easier the work so that we can go forward. And by taking the time to remove impediments, first get stuff out of your own way so that you can do this. Then you can help your team. And that's just going to benefit everybody, starting with you, which is where respect starts. Start with yourself first. What's in the way of you starting to use Scrum right now? It could be as simple as a decision. And when you reflect on it, it's just the decision to not start, which keeps you from starting. I recently met somebody in Norway, and they had read my book. And thank you, Jennifer, for putting all those great book recommendations out earlier in the video. And they said they had questions about the framework. And I said, well, what have you used it to Scrum? What has Scrum helped you with? And the person said, oh, I haven't started yet. I was like, well, how long ago did you read the book? When it first came out? And I was like, well, that was almost 2 years ago. So I was like, don't read the book again. The first thing you need to do is you need to get started. And there are simple instructions on how to get started. So get started, get out of your own way by making excuses to not do it perfectly. That is an impediment that a lot of people face in construction Scrum, using Scrum in design construction. Like, oh, this is not for me. This is too difficult. If I can't get the whole team to do it, it's not going to happen. No, you can do it just for you first and benefit yourself first, and then go to others. So the first impediment you're going to see, and thank you, Jesse, for bringing that out. There is multiple ways to learn the framework in much more detail, including a free half-hour course, because I can't do it in less than 30 minutes. So 20 minutes is just the ninja to get you started. I'm going to share some rules of thumb with all of you, but the first barrier you see there on our path is probably you. You're the first barrier. You're the first impediment. So here's some rules of thumb. Use grace with yourself. Be patient. Perfect is not what we're looking for. We're looking for you just to get started. These are my tools as a Ninja Scrum Master when I get started. I have a simple marker. I just so happen to like this color blue. And I have a blue Post-it note, but you can use whatever you have. You can even use an Excel spreadsheet if that's what you want to use to expose your thinking. Or I know some of you are huge Microsoft fans. You could even use OneNote and just create a simple list. As long as you move things around, you can get the same exact feel and benefit as this. But this is the easiest, low-tech, nothing to teach thing to go with. So to get that first impediment out of the way, you got to learn what Scrum is. So from the Scrum guide, there is actually a rule book. Scrum is simple. Try it as is. The framework is purposefully incomplete, which is like, nobody thinks that. If you read the Scrum guide, it tells you it's incomplete on purpose. And it's built upon the collective intelligence of the people using it. So you're going to create some capacity. That space that you make for yourself by doing nothing that is of no use is you're going to read the Scrum guide. And I'll give you a link, or you can listen to it in a second. Then you're going to fix something. Fix something that's personal to you, that's connected to you, that's going to impact your body, mind, and spirit. And remove the suffering. Help your team, help yourself, help the project deliver by looking at what's frustrating people now. Every construction project I know and every design project I know has something causing people undue suffering. If you can work to remove that, you're going to create goodwill so that you can go further in your Scrum implementation. So I've got a video here that I'm not going to play now, but on my YouTube channel, if you just land on my channel, Felipe Engineer on YouTube, you can watch how the Scrum framework works in construction. And I got a question here from Jared. Jared says, when requesting one of your teammates that is having a hard time keeping up to try Scrum, and they respond with, I'm too busy to Scrum, how do you reply? I always tell people, you're right. If you think you're too busy to learn something new, you're absolutely correct. And if you think that you'd benefit from learning Scrum, you are absolutely correct. So I use energy and enthusiasm about it myself to make people curious and want to try this. And I've seen Ninja Scrum happen with company-wide conversions. One in particular is an engineering company in the middle of the country where the owner got super enthusiastic about it, and people noticed a change in the owner because he had much more capability, capacity, and his emotional intelligence increased as he became more aware of the things that were causing his team frustration. That creativity on him to use it himself created pull from his team to use it. Scrum is not something I push on people. And all of the people watching from the Bull Company can attest that I never tell them that you should just do Scrum. Now, some of them that know that I'm a Scrum enthusiast will ask me about it, and I'll tell them with the same passion and vigor that I have for it because I use it every day of my life at both work and at home. So, yeah. There's a link to the YouTube channel. I have a podcast as well where I actually read the Scrum Guide out loud, and I give my design and construction commentary based on my experience. It's also a chapter in my book, and Jesse shared that link before, and you can click in the show notes below and get access to all the my favorite free chapters from the Construction Scrum book so that you can, be entertained and learn how to do Scrum at the same time. And so I want to come back to some of the live Q&A and just to show Jennifer what 20 minutes looks like. This is what 20 minutes looks like, Jennifer. So I'm hitting that 20-minute mark, Jesse, right on point. That is the last slide in the slideshow. And we'll go open up to the Q&A. So I've got some questions I can see coming in from the chat. And to go a little bit further on what Jared was saying about people not being able to keep up, you've got to slow yourself down and ask people with real, genuine, what we call humble inquiry or real curiosity. What are you working on? Just get curious. What are you working on? Something that person is doing that you think that they'd benefit from Scrum is preventing them from trying something different. Like, why would I, make sticky notes to do long and short-term planning is what people would say. And then I'll answer Adam's question here, but here's another rule of thumb. Like, when you start scrumming, look 30 days into the future, look 5 days into the future. Plan the next 5 days, but be aware of what's coming up in the next 30. Now you're acting like a samurai and not quite a ninja. So we'll get back to ninjing. Make the work visible for yourself so that you can see. And then Adam said, what's the downside? One of the downsides of Scrum is when you make the work super transparent and visible, everybody's going to see like what's going on. Like, how much do you work? What are you working on? And for some people, this is terrifying. There was a Scrum team that I work with in Texas where one of the leaders of the team realized quickly that everyone was going to know that they weren't doing anything. And they did everything that they could to stop their team from scrumming. And the company, unfortunately, promoted them, or fortunately. And then the team all quit. One by one, the team quit because somebody got promoted that didn't actually do work. And once you know how to make work visible, even when people don't, you can more easily spot it. So that's definitely one of the downsides. I'd also say another negative is there's going to be before and after. There's the before Scrum that you have, and then there's the after. And you're going to feel a little bit of angst about, why didn't you start this earlier? This was so easy. And so I want you to think about this for those of you getting started. Like, get your before written down somewhere, even if it's just on a blank little sticky pad. Write down some metrics of how you were before. How much time did you spend in meetings last week? How effective do you feel you were on a scale of 1 to 5? And don't overthink it. Just write it down, hide the sticky note, and then 5 days from now, take a look and see if it made a difference for you. So we got a question from the Omniverse. Have you found your own critical thoughts can get in the way? Thank you, Sarah. That's a great question. And absolutely, the answer is yes. I said in the beginning, one of the first obstacles you're going to face is you. You've got resistance yourself to trying something new because it's risky. You're going to be vulnerable. When I first tried Scrum, I was working on a hard bid project, and I decided to do it as an experiment to see, like, does this work in construction? Because at the time, that was over almost 10 years ago, it was everything you looked at was like IT software with examples. There wasn't anything about construction. And so I was like, let me try this on me and make sure that this works. And in my book, I share a story about how I tried it with my son, who at the time was like not even 5 years old. And it worked with him. And then I used it at work and it worked. And I thought, wow, this actually is working. But I did have to overcome some negative thinking of myself too. I wanted to just get it started because I was extremely frustrated on the project that I was on. And it was that frustration and just plain out desperation that said, anything's got to be better than what I'm doing now. And it was one of the greatest things that I convinced myself to do because it has made everything else so much easier. So that was super good question, Sarah. Yeah. Negative thoughts, when they come, just let them see what the negative thought is and then let it continue on its way. You don't have to hold on to it. If you have self-doubt, you don't need to, let it become a record that plays on repeat in your mind. Or for those of you that don't know what a record is, don't let it be a song that you just have repeating over and over again in your playlist. Let some other songs come through your list. And then Mr. Hoot says, how many times do you have a deliver Scrum activity? You always deliver. So, Adam, if you set your sprint duration, which is the time box that holds everything in our Scrum, it's our cycle of time where we're going to go through the repetitions of what the framework is. That, for a lot of people, setting it at 30 days is super easy. Now, for Ninja Scrum, you want to set it at 5 days so that you can see progress 5 days from now. What's up, Heather?
Hey.
Yeah, you got to deliver every week. And Heather even has an email to me right now about Scrum, and she's just not in my responding framework. So there's been no response from me yet. But I've seen the email, Heather, but it's not time to respond yet because it's my cycle is coming up. So I'm just keeping it in the cycle.
I appreciate the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Well, that brings a question I have, Felipe. What is the time frame in terms of the time it takes for people outside of you to become conditioned or adjust to your new method of operation in terms of Scrum?
Yeah, it depends on the number of interactions. The more interactions you have, the faster it happens. The faster the conversion, or the faster that they recognize like what you can do. Like I just had a conversation. We had a reflection, my boss and I, over the last year, and he made the comment about pretty much anything we put in front of you, just devour it. You handle it. And the same is true for like food. People have watched me eat. They know that I can put some food away. And I go after the work in the same way that I go after, getting my plate cleared.
A steak?
No crumbs, right? Heather knows, no crumbs, no leftovers. It's going to all get done.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I bring that up is just like the response that you just, or the exchange you just had with Heather. Some people are in a state that they're used to an immediate response to every single email or communication they sent out. And what you just demonstrated was limiting work in progress.
Right.
Like I saw it, but it's not in my workflow to respond right now. I will be responding in there a future. And so that could be jolting for people on the other end. And so maybe in my head, there's some adjustment for people on both sides of the Scrum board, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things when you're at a practicing Ninja Scrum Master, you never want to come off as thirsty, Jesse. You want people to always be wanting more of you. And so if you make yourself and I'm super accessible. Like Heather knows that if it's urgent, she can just call my phone and I'll answer it. Right. But I'm not going to be constantly responding to emails every day. And I know a lot of people we work with in our industry are on the constant treating email like it's a text message type of response. And I just don't do that.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching people that that's not going to ever be the case with me. And for some people that don't know, and they're used to the text message email exchange, they learn probably within 5 days.
That ain't the way it works.
It's not the way it works.
Yeah. Well, we got another question from Mr. Jared in Switzerland. Says, is there an over Scrum or a point in which it could be counterproductive?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, Jared. The short and fast is things that are very simple and trivial. If you can do it on a checklist alone, do not Scrum it, because you're going to you'll be doing more work than is necessary to just do the work. And like, as you get better in the framework, there's some things that will just become muscle memory and you can do without thinking. And so don't overproduce. Err on the side of like going through the framework, like the first way through at least one time before you start innovating and making lots of changes. So Jared, read the Scrum Guide, download my free chapters of my book, listen to me narrate chapter 9. And then anything after that is just gravy.
Oh, gravy. Miss Heather, you got any questions or any Elmos you want to throw at Felipe before we do the transition?
That's when we first met. That is exactly how I introduced myself to Felipe, was throwing an Elmo in his face.
Is that Elmo right there?
It is that Elmo right up there.
Exactly.
Oh, no, it's yours. That's right.
That's mine.
And now I have his twin right here.
Yeah, that's the one.
Nice.
That's the one.
Memories.
Yeah. She almost broke my glasses, but luckily they stay together, which is great because I needed them to see. but Heather is very strong, people. Everyone to know that, like, going into her session, like, she's super strong. So just keep that in mind. Proceed with caution.
Yes, proceed with caution. Well, Felipe, appreciate you for sharing your time and your scrumalicious scrumminess. There are links in the chat, folks. If you want to connect to Felipe's bio link, it's there. And there's also the link that'll take you to the website. Closing thought before we hand it over to Miss Heather.
The final thing is, like Jeff says, just get started.
Gangsta. All right, my man, you be cool.
Talk at you next time.
Yeah. Well, Heather, that gives us a couple of minutes together. How you doing so far?
Doing well.
Yeah? What do you think about the lineup that we had yesterday and today?
Oh, man, what a great lineup. It's an honor to be a part of such a strong lineup from our industry. So yeah. I want to say thank you for the invitation and being a part of this.
Of course. Thank you for accepting. And folks out there in the Omniverse, Heather is under the weather and still showing up, being ready to show out. And what she's going to bring to us, she's going to have a conversation about respect for people, which, if you didn't notice yesterday and haven't heard through today's presenters, there's a heavy emphasis on people. And Heather, I know you have a deep appreciation for the folks out there that are doing the work and affecting change such that the misery that is currently experienced is dissipated. We want less, and you're working in that direction. So I can see that you all were streaming to your account. Awesome. We got that working behind the scenes. Are you presenting anything, or you're just all screen on you?
I do have one video I would like to show, if we can try that out.
Sure. Is that where you're starting off at?
You know what? Not like right after I get started.
Okay, good. Just hit the share screen on your end, and as soon as I see it, I'll bring it up on the screen.
Okay.
All right. Good. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Share screen on my end. Maybe it's present. Okay, well, everybody, my name is Heather Ormonde, and as Jesse said, please bear with me. Today is the first day I've been able to really make it out of bed. Got a virus from my daughter, and it was a really tough one. So what I want to talk about is respect for people. And I want to start with a quote from Walt Disney, who said, he had many great quotes, but the one, you can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. Right there, it takes people. That's where it starts. And if you've been watching over the last day, all of the presentations, the common thread was people. And every topic was different, but everyone focused on the people aspect, because I think that's where we seem to have gotten away from. And that's where we need to really start focusing our time. So I'm going to try and get this video to show here in just a second. So respect for people. The video I'm going to show is my grandfather. At 92 years old, he was, we were playing a game, and this was just a few months before he passed. And the question, this game had questions, and it said, what is the most valuable lesson you have learned? And so let's see if we can get this. I hope you guys can see this on your side.
What is one of the most valuable lessons you have learned?
Yeah.
The golden rule. I hope I didn't never lose my marble. It says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that raises goosebumps. The golden rule.
Okay, well, I hope that went through. And but it's the golden rule marble. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. My grandfather always had it in his pocket. He handed it out almost like candy, the marbles, to people because it was so important. And I feel like in our industry, we've lost a lot of that. When I started in the construction industry, I was really taken back at the very beginning by how we treated people, specifically our trade partners. I remember thinking, well, they can't eat in the building. They have to eat in their trucks. It's like 100 degrees outside. How and there's just those porta potties. Like, that doesn't seem like, my initial thought was, how is this an acceptable work environment? How is this allowed to treat people this way? But soon I guess we become numb to those maybe initial like questions and thoughts, and just see that as the norm, and that's just how things go. Later, when I was on the owner's side, after working for a few general contractors, I went to the owner's side. And one day I was talking with a GC about a project we were working on, and he came and said, I feel like, what have I done? Because I feel like you don't trust me. And I kind of, what do you mean? Well, you're treating me like you don't trust me. What have I done to have you not trust me? And it made me realize a big reality check. Well, I was just treating this GC the same way that I had been taught to treat every trade partner. We say trust but verify. And it just was a reality check that, man, if the GC, if he felt so taken back and so off put by how I was treating him, I can't imagine how every trade partner, and no wonder they won't speak up and they won't share or give input or feel like they are part of the team. So now I want to quote Adam Hoots. He's got a new book out, Old Dog, Lean Thesaurus. If you haven't seen it or gotten it, you need to check it out. But I really like the way his description of respect for people encompasses a fundamental and comprehensive approach to fostering an environment of dignity, collaboration, and continuous improvement. It extends beyond mere politeness and encompasses a range of practices aimed at harnessing the inherent value and potential of every individual involved in the construction process. So some of the things that really stand out there for me are the dignity and the collaboration, and how important that is. Felipe said it just on the previous conversation, that we need to respect for people starts with ourselves. And how many of us take the time to think about self-care and putting ourself first or our family first? I sure did not. And have recently been learning more about self-care. As with anything, is if I don't know anything about it, I grab a book or I go do some research. So recently I looked up self-care and found that there's like 7 different categories of self-care. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot there, and a lot that I used to do. But as life has gotten busy, I stopped doing, and I started thinking about, man, I miss, having art in my life. I miss working out, taking the time to work out and do things. But respect for people starts with ourselves. And are we respecting our health, our time, our family? Another thought as we think about respect for people is we need more people to join our industry. We've all hear every day about how so many are retiring and there's such a resource shortage. We can't get people to join our industry. But if we're treating them like subhumans and we're not giving them adequate facilities, Jason Schroeder says it great. Respect equals high expectations. And his podcast, his second podcast talks about respect for people and how important clean bathrooms are and comfortable break rooms. And he challenges everyone to, think about the people that are putting the work into place and where are they at and how can we treat them better. Some ways to do this are thinking about Gemba walks. Go and see what are the challenges that those people are facing. How can we make their work better? But go listen. There's so many tools out there to learn about respect for people. Humble inquiry is a great place to start. Gemba walks. I'm not going to give a list. I'll put it in the chat later on, a list of some really good resources. But Toyota has some really great quotes. Everybody wants to copy what Toyota has done, and they're willing to share it out. But the thing that is missing that a lot of people are focusing on is the tools. Like we hear over and over, it's about the lean tools. It's the toolbox. But what about the people? And there is as something that Toyota has posted is there is no limit to how far human wisdom can be developed within the company. We continually aim to achieve mutual understanding, fulfill mutual responsibilities, and combine the power of our individual employees. Respect for people is the attitude that regards people's ability to think most. So, respect people's ability to think, treating people, developing our people. That's every trade partner. That's everybody that's on the project site. How can we develop them? How can we give them the tools, teach them, expand their knowledge? I was recently heard a company that was going away from their normal, you've got your monthly, quarterly review with your employer. And often it's, here's what you've done well, here's where you need to improve upon, and what are those steps to making that happen. Well, this company is taking a different approach, and they are focusing on that employee. What are your goals? What are you super energized about right now that you want to go and change and make an impact? Okay, now how can I help support you in doing that? What tools do you need? Too often, people come up with really great ideas and it's, hey, that's great. Now go give me a plan of how to implement that. Maybe instead of saying that, say, that's a great idea. What do you need to be successful? How often do you ask that for your people? What do you need to be successful? That's really respect for people. Another really great quote from Toyota was, respect. We respect others, make every effort to understand each other, take responsibility, and do our best to build mutual trust. Teamwork. We simulate personal and professional growth, share the opportunities of development, and maximize individual and team performance. make every effort to understand each other, take responsibility, and do our best to build mutual respect. One story I've got, the GC was complaining, the trades, everybody was complaining about all the changes that were happening, and they were really coming down on the architect. Man, why do you keep giving all these changes? Why do you keep, we're trying to build this project. How are we supposed to build it if you keep changing it and not telling us not knowing what we're doing? And, put yourself in that architect's shoes. What if that architect is just doing the best they can, but every time they meet with the owner is changing their mind because the owner really doesn't know what they want? Or the owner just went and saw something new that they want to now incorporate in this new project. This project that is going to be, they've worked and saved for years to build this project for their company. And this is their one chance at getting it right. And now they don't have the money to go back and do it over a second time or to change it. So if they see something, they want to incorporate that, so that it can provide value to their employees. But we don't think about the perspective of the architect or the owner or what they're going through. We just think about all the changes and the nightmare that's causing us. So take a second and try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and what are they going through. Another really great, so thinking about respect for people, what can you do to implement this? What can you go and try? And this is from Natalie Sawyer. We as individuals will contribute to a culture of respect for people just by how we show up each moment. It starts with self-awareness and personal accountability for our own leadership. Ask yourself, am I continuing to grow, learn, and develop? Am I building capability with those around me? Using language constructively, listening and communicating effectively. Am I contributing to the development of a lean culture? Am I actively improving processes and solving problems? Am I being accountable to the results as well as the process to achieve them? How are you showing respect for people? What are you doing to be intentional? So, Darren, yes. What do you need to be successful? Any other questions we've got?
Heather, how are you?
Doing well.
You having fun?
Yes.
So I have a question that I'm going to ask, and it might be a little coming from a tangent. So here it is. Heather, what makes you feel respected?
Feeling heard. Feeling heard. What a great question. Being a female in the construction industry, feeling like my opinion matters and that people want to listen.
Oh. So folks out there in the Omniverse, hit us with your questions. But you just opened up another question. So,
okay.
I cut you off. I'm sorry. I'll pump the brakes. You good? What are some indicators that you have been heard? You personally?
Somebody repeating back what they heard, or, oh, I really like that idea, or that sounds really good, or tell me more about that. Some of those humble inquiry is a great place to start with feeling heard. and listening to people. I had this boss, Lean Six Sigma black belt, and we went through humble inquiry exercise together and the act of listening. He listened and he repeated back everything I said, and it was just this eye-opening experience because I always felt like I didn't feel heard with him. I didn't feel like he was listening or paying attention. He's one of those really smart people that took it all in, but it didn't come across that he was listening. It kind of came across as he was waiting for a point to start talking. And but when he repeated back, I was like, wow, you caught all of that. I was really surprised. His actions didn't make me feel unheard when we would talk and stuff. Does that make sense? So, like, he responded, he acknowledged maybe what I was saying, but the way he carried himself, I didn't sometimes feel like he was actually actively listening.
Yeah, no. So what I heard is like the response, the dialogue. Okay, I heard what you said. This is what I took away. Kind of recapping makes you feel heard in the moment. And if that was absent, his actions and behaviors also didn't reinforce or indicate that he was listening and that he heard you.
Yeah.
So there's another question in the chat, so I'm gonna bring it up. But before I do that, how meaningful is it when someone takes action on what you just talked about?
It's I don't know that I can put that into words. It's I don't think I can put it into words. It's just so rewarding it's more than feeling heard. It's just I matter.
And is that connected to feeling respected?
Yeah.
I mean, there's layers to this listening thing.
Yep.
And obviously there's layers to this respect thing, but taking action on what people communicate to us, you can't receive that communication if you don't shut up and listen. And you can listen actively to demonstrate that, yes, I hear you. I want you to know that you're heard. And then pulling the trigger and doing something is a demonstration of respect. And so we got to comment. Go ahead.
And it doesn't have to be, say it's a plus delta and somebody's given something. Maybe you can't do that request. Maybe you can't make that change. But acknowledging, hey, I hear you. You would like for us to start this meeting earlier. Unfortunately, due to X, Y, and Z, we can't do that.
Oh my God. You know what? And thank you for that. Almost as if we scripted it, because I totally forgot. But folks out there in the Omniverse, this QR code will take you to a plus delta that Heather set up. You took charge of it. You put the link together and did all the magical things. And the intent of this is to get your feedback on all of the presenters today and yesterday. What was it about the conversation that made your use of time a valuable investment? And what was it about the experience that you would like to see different, that would enhance your experience in the future? So, do the snappy snap and whatever, like, I don't know if you're on your phone or whatever, but you can get it on the replay, and we love your feedback. And in that thread of respect, I'm fixing to bring Mr. Davis up. He's chomping at the bit to get up here.
Was there one more question you had?
Yeah. I'm bringing Adams up right now. So Adam says, amazing. How can we measure respect on the project?
Ooh. I think that's a great question. And And I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to that, but I think when looking at the atmosphere, are people speaking up? We talk about, trust and reliable promises. Somebody able to comfortably say, no, I can't do that. I can't make that. I think that's where you see it. That's where you could measure it. I heard it from a GC just last week. I can't tell or a trade partner, I can't tell the GC no. And GCs, I can't tell the owner no. Well, why not? How are we supposed to have trust, and how are we supposed to get things done and have reliable promises if we can't say no?
Whew. So maybe that's a measurement point, right? What's your comfort level in saying no? And you've got to back it up. You can't just say no because I don't want to. You can't be Jesse, right? That's what Jesse does. So I've seen another method by Adam Hoots. He calls it the circle of trust. And I'm not going to spill the beans on it. I think his website link is out there in either today or yesterday's deal, Construction Inc. Solutions. He can help you with that. And it's one of those simple but hyper effective techniques of clarifying the or maybe visualizing the level of respect that people are experiencing on site.
Okay. So I'm going to put some links to some resources and some tools for Respect for People on my LinkedIn page.
Boom.
So check that out, and I will make sure and put Adam's link to that circle of trust in there.
Phenomenal. Well, before you go, Miss Heather, Adam Hoot says that video of your grandfather was very touching. Great work. He got goosebumps. Thank you. Mr. Jared Wilson, who's watching with his whole family. So, Jared, hopefully we're kind of getting through so they understand the crazy, weird, lean things that you're attracted to. He says, thank you, Heather, for sharing. Hope you feel better. And Davis, you got a question or a thought for Miss Heather?
I do. Miss Heather, this is the first time meeting you, but just hello for meeting virtually. But, you talked about it a little bit, but what was it like having the shift? You talked about respect for people a lot, but on the last part, you kind of hit on active listening. I can think back into my own life when I wasn't an active listener, and when I was, what was that shift like for you? For a lot of people, it's probably a lot different, right? It's just like the definition of leadership. It means different things to each person. But what was that shift like for you from not being an active listener to stepping into learning how to be an active listener?
It's a hard shift. And it takes a lot of practice and just being aware and being humble enough to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I've got this going on. It's, again, saying no.
Right.
I can't take on what you've got right now, but I do want to hear because it is important, but I don't have the capacity. Or
right.
Let me finish this thought, and then so it definitely takes some practice.
Right. I think that's, at least what I did. I'm third year full time in the construction industry, and it took some time to realize that you can tell people no, right? And it's okay. And it's probably even better that you do because you're honest and being vulnerable up front and telling them, hey, I don't have the capacity right now, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Amen.
Yep.
Well, Heather, I appreciate your time. Phenomenal job. I know you're going to go rest because I know how much energy this kind of thing takes. Thank you for your thoughts, your vulnerability, sharing your experience, and your grandfather's insight, because we all kind of have lost our marbles and we need to get them back. So, Heather, thank you, girlfriend.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, and now
Uh-oh.
It is my buddy and I, Mr. Davis Hambrick. Davis, my friend, thank you, sir. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm just trying to figure out how'd you get all these people to want to help you out, Jesse, man. They want to help a guy out like you. What's going on here?
Well, the advent of video technology gives me a lot of evidence that I'm holding over people's head. No, I'm joking. I'll tell you the truth, man. you know, the idea came to mind. If I got to give you some credit, so I'm gonna make you blush here because I know
Oh
you
my
don't like
gosh.
it.
I don't.
This
I might
idea
leave.
jumped in my head last October. I was in Phoenix, and you know, it's called the Decentralized Conference because I've been, you know, we've all been to tons and tons of conferences, and there's some stuff I don't really like. As an attendee, I have to fly to wherever the thing is. I got to pay,
Yeah.
right, to be a part of the thing, and they ain't cheap.
Mm.
And then I kind of end up getting bombarded with emails from all the vendors that I also don't really like, right? And you know, I have a newsletter and I have a business, so I am one of those people that does bombard others. But it was an element that I wanted to remove. And then as a presenter, Thomas and I were talking about this at the beginning. I don't really like going through the dang submitting an abstract, right? And hoping and wishing that they're going to pick me, and then contorting my message so that it fits their thing, and the inability to interact with people directly, say the next presenter or people that are like out there in the audience.
Right.
So then the question was like, okay, I don't like that. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to cry or am I do something? I had lunch with Felipe. I say, hey, man, I'm tinkering. He's like, dude, we could live stream that on YouTube. I said, oh, yeah. So that was October. January, you and I were on a call because you and I have a lot of conversations. I mean, you trust me. You've allowed me to speak into your life, and you definitely speak into my life. And you asked me like, so what do you got going on? And I'm like, I got all these bazillion things to do.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was planning on doing it in February. And so I had reached out to all these folks, ran into them at the LCI Congress in New Orleans, and just said, hey, I got an idea. And I mean, to my pleasure, they all said, yeah, let's do that. And I didn't really have the idea fully formed. But you said, wait a minute, Jess, like maybe you need to pause back and maybe do things with some time between them, because that's a lot of stuff. And I'm grateful, because had you not pointed that out, Davis, I would have attempted to launch everything back then. And I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm tired right now, and that's after adding several months to the plan. Which, folks, if you're out there in the Omniverse listening, the value of surrounding yourself with people that operate at a level beyond your own current level is tremendous. And that's why you, Davis, are one of the many people, along with everybody else, you're in my life for that reason, because there's many things about you that I aspire to be and invoke in my own lifestyle. So I'm grateful to you for gifting me with your time, for everyone that has and everyone that will, because we still got 2 more. But before, I want to do a housekeeping thing.
Yeah.
Have you done the stream to your...
I'm gonna do it real quick. That's
all right.
Save. Oh my goodness.
That's all right. Look at that. We got Adam. He says, never contort your message. Adam, you and I talked about this, right? It's like, oh man, I got to. So I just wanted a nice low friction experience for the viewers and for the presenters. Boom. All right. I see you there. You're up, Davis. Good. So, little housekeeping question.
Yeah.
Are you going to be like sharing screen, presenting anything? No?
I got some notes, but I think I'm well prepared. This is something I'm passionate about. I don't think it's going to take, I wish I could have 3 hours to spend with you here just talking about it. So
good. Well, we'll give you the visual indicator. I think Jason's up next. So Jason and I will come on at about 5 minutes towards the end. You can keep going, close your thought. Are you okay with me bringing in questions as they arise?
Yes, sir. Feel free.
All right, my brother. Well, I'm going to head out and the stage is yours, good sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Man, Jesse, just wanted to say thank you to start out. You know, I'm not the best at taking compliments or taking anyone bragging about me, but you have taught me that. So I'm just going to say thank you for the opportunity to do this. Thank you to people here listening. I think from the majority of people that probably watch the live stream are going to be catching this on YouTube later. You see that the people in this lineup really care about people. And at the heart of Jesse Hernandez is someone that really just cares about people. So again, just thank you for the opportunity. Still trying to figure out how you got 12 of the best in the industry on, but maybe I'll learn that from you. So just really to get started, as you see, how to lead at an early age of construction. This certainly applies for people early on in their career in construction, but man, I think you can try to use this at any point in your career. Leadership, like I said earlier, is one of the things I just love to study, love to try to implement on the job site. One of the things that I'm extremely passionate about. So I'll probably say leadership and lead 1,000 times. And if I bore you with that, please just tell me to shut up about the word lead, because I'll continue to say it. But I just love what it means to figure another person out, and how can I help them, motivate them, drive them, how can I help them get to where they want to be in life. And so I think there's a stereotypical picture of what it looks like to lead in construction, right? When you think of leading, it doesn't just have to be a male or female, or the title. It could be an estimator, project manager, superintendent, all of the plethora of roles that are in the construction industry. But when you think of a leader, majority of people probably think of that type A personality who's out in front, who's demanding, who's rallying the troops, right? And there's certainly, you can be someone that's out in front and rallying the troops, but there's this shift for what leading looks like, right? Especially in this industry. And I think that as we continue to grow and evolve, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people, especially if you're prepared to step into some of these leadership roles. And so this morning it was very strategic, but I put out this exact message. It's just 3 points about how to lead at an early age of construction. I just wanted to start out, one of the people that I just study, his name is John Maxwell. He says the first person you lead is yourself. So point one, lead yourself. Walker Lott, he's my friend, one of my best friends. He and I do the Laying Foundations podcast together each week, and we wholeheartedly believe in this model. If we can't first lead the person standing in the mirror, how am I expected to lead the other person, right? I can't ask someone else to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I'm the person that I have complete control over my own life. If I can't lead myself, I'm not going to be able to lead others. A few more things just really before we continue to get into this topic is, let's talk about what leadership is not. Some of the things that I found just from data and studying what leadership is. Leadership is not arrogant, it's not rude, it's not boastful, it's not self-seeking, it's not proud, it's not demanding its own way, and it doesn't delight in others' downfall. When you really think about that when I talked earlier about what the stereotypical model looks like, that's probably what you think a real leader is, at least from what I've seen in construction. The people that are out front, that's the leader of the job. Man, they are arrogant, they are rude, they are boastful, they are self-seeking, right? And how do we change and shift our mindset? Kind of what Miss Heather was talking about when she became an active listener. That last question we asked her was, you're going to change from what you think leadership is, and we're going to step into this new light of how you think, or how I believe you should lead. And to me, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. To me, leading other people is serving them. Jesse Hernandez is a great person that just loves to serve other people. He has a heart for people, and wants to learn how to serve them the best way. And I believe if you learn how to lead other people, you're really going to learn how to serve them. And so, continuing down this line of leading yourself, we talked about it. You got to lead yourself first. Some of the things that isn't, you can't be arrogant, can't be rude. Now, getting into kind of the meat of this part, what are some of the ways we can begin to lead ourselves? And I just have 4 points, and then I'll have an analogy for us at the end of it. But just 4 things I thought of, man. Instead of being all knowing, be always learning. Choose to be a sponge and continue to learn from every person you come into contact with. I firmly believe if you're out on the job site today, you can learn how to do something and how not to do something every single day. But you have to be willing to be the sponge and take that information in and learn from other people. You have to be humble enough to say, I don't know. I need other people to invest in me and show me the way. I need to learn from every single person I come into contact on the job site. Um, Another thing I think about what leaders do, man, great leaders seek counsel. It could be that it could be counsel that is, hey, I need mental health, right? We all know the construction industry is just the worst industry when it talks about mental health. We have the top industry that lacks that really have the highest rate of suicide, right? And so, man, maybe it's I need to go seek professional counsel. Maybe I need to go have someone help me just decrease the load, the anxiety, the stress that's going on in my life. And to me, it's more than okay to go seek counsel. Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." And so I'm the person that if I don't understand, I'm going to go seek counsel. Jesse's one of those people in my life that I go seek counsel from. Walker Lott's one of those people. My aunt Melissa Jackson, that runs a leadership company